Cup Series. Into the lead. Bond gets wrecked in front of the pack. He saves it. 3-4 wide as they come to the white flag. Here comes Vargas down on the apron. They are 5 wide. Ian Plash will win it at the line. Is this package? Oh, there goes Jordan Lopez Jr. That's your race leader. Caution flag is out.
Still no one willing to give up as they're going to be dead even off of the first chicane.
Oh, he saves it. What's going to happen here? Here comes the canvas. Oh, get your foot there.
He's got it. He's got it. Get there. No.
Canvas is in.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome to FTFGG's broadcast of the Legends of the Future series presented by Shenandoah Shine. Tonight, the Come to Richmond 150 from the virtual Richmond Raceway in Henrico County, Virginia. James Pike alongside Caleb Hoffman for more action here on FTFGG in the 1987 stock cars. And Richmond is an interesting track with these machines, Caleb. A lot of fun to wheel it around this 3/4 of a mile facility.
And not only the action on the racetrack, but looking back to last week, the Legend 500, Michael P. Frisch closed that gap down. So everybody is keeping an eye on points here tonight. Can he close that gap even more to Kevin McAdams going into the penultimate round?
42 points between McAdams and Frisch at the top of the standings. Let's take you through tonight's starting grid. Seth DeMerchant is your pole sitter with a fast time of 23.294 seconds. Dylan Roberts will start second. Tyler DeBosch and Sean Peleg will start in third and fourth. Logan Helton and Alex Kaladix fifth and sixth. David Brown, points leader McAdams, Mitchell Riggs, and Gabriel Mauricio complete the top 10.
Looking back to 11th, Chris Yankee with Davis Warren in row 6, Michael Cozy Jr. with Adam Martin in row number 7. Art Reimer going to be starting alongside Jackson Van Valkenburg. Danny Thompson and Trent Curtis are row 9. And then in 19th, Michael P. Frisch with Daniel Falkingham rounding out your top 20.
Tyler Gary starts in 21st alongside Michael Sturgill. Lucas Plessel rolls off the 23rd position this evening. 24th is Ashton Slice. Ethan Corder and Justin Malillo complete our 26-car grid for tonight's race at Richmond Raceway in the sim track that opened originally in 1946 and was reconfigured in the early 1990s to the D shape that we see today. 3/4 of a mile, 1.21 kilometers in distance. Tonight, we go for 200 laps, 150 miles, 242 kilometers of action, all here on FTFGG. Should be a lot of fun in this Come to Richmond 150. Tonight's weather in sim, it is March 1st, 2023, right around 5 p.m. local time. Air temp in sim is currently 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Track temp is 73 degrees Fahrenheit. Winds headed to the north at 2 miles an hour and humidity of 30%. Half a lap before we go green. Caleb Hoffman, anything else you're watching tonight besides the points battle?
Yeah, I mean, keep an eye on this track condition for sure. I mean, as the sun begins to fall, this track gets a little bit cooler. It's going to definitely be changing how these guys race. So going to be keeping an eye on that. Ready to go here for 200 laps.
Seth DeMerchant leading them to green for Altus Esports. Pace car makes that hard left-hand turn onto pit road. Green flag is in the air. DeMerchant leads them to the stripe, and we are underway in the Come to Richmond 150. DeMerchant, your leader on lap 1, just ahead of Dylan Roberts. There was contact a little bit further back. Chris Yankee went around, and he is back behind Justin Malillo in dead last, about 2.5 seconds behind Justin in the 26th position. He was the only car that I saw went around on that initial start, but it goes to show just how difficult these cars are to get going in the sim and in real life because it's all carburetor-based. There's no electronic fuel injection, and you really do have to actually shift these things, Caleb, in order to get them up to speed.
Absolutely, and you saw a close call there. That was with Alex Kolonix right there, Logan Helton. They're trying to get around Kevin McAdams right now. Just slowly trying to shuffle into line here, and that's what it's all about. You know, you don't want to fall out of line, and again, it'll be exactly like any other short track where you'll just fall straight to the back with everybody freight training you.
The top 10 have already gone single file. First proper battle, you have to go to 13th, where you'll find Jackson von Valkenburg and Michael Cozy Jr., Trent Curtis and Daniel Falkingham in the mix as well. Michael Sturgill just off the back of them. They are still door-to-door in 3 and 4, but everybody else out front immediately, I think, looking to save tires, which is so critical with the bias ply model that we have. It's not like the radials that we use on Cup cars in modern day. This tire wears a little bit differently. It wears out a little bit more, and you have to manage it over the course of a long green flag run.
Absolutely. I mean, if we do see long green flag runs tonight, then those tires, the fuels, it's going to be so important tonight. We saw pit strategy last week had a huge effect on it when we had the first long green flag stint, and having those clean pit stops really changed the outcome of the race. So definitely keeping our eyes on it tonight, as Adam Martin looks like he's going to be shuffled out of the groove here.
And you also think about last week, the Legends 500. I'll be curious to see which drivers have their performance over the last few races boosted by their run at Daytona, and which drivers maybe sort of fall off and have a hangover of sorts off of a close finish, a poor finish. There were so many people that had a shot that got caught up in wrecks late. You almost have to pick yourself up off the floor here and go, because you're not too far away from crowning a champion.
Well, absolutely. I mean, that's a common denominator across all sports. Is momentum is a very real thing, and you can find yourself in a slump or on a hot streak very easily. So everybody, looking at Michael P. Frisch, who has been on somewhat of a hot streak right now, to continue that here today. But an uphill battle as of now for sure.
Only one more race on the calendar after tonight at Charlotte. We'll have that next week here on FTFGG. But in the meantime, still Seth DeMerchant in control. Battle, though, from the back half of the top 10 is starting to get a little bit better. Cozy has managed to get to the inside of Jackson von Valkenburg, and now here comes Daniel Falkingham to the inside. And a little bit further back, you've got Trent Curtis and Tyler Gary fighting for positions as well.
Yeah, I mean, still just, I think everybody's trying to get settled in and finding their groove, because this is a very rhythm-based racetrack with how small it is. You got to just consistently hit your marks around this place, and one small adjustment and that'll knock you off your rhythm, and you'll be out of sync for 2, 3, maybe even more laps.
Door to door still. I think the question, if you're Curtis, if you're Slice, if you're any of these drivers back here, how much do you fight for position, and how much do you go single file and start working together when you consider that everyone in the top 10 has gone single file and they have cleared 11th on by a full second? The more you run side by side here, yes, you may gain that one spot or two, but there comes a point where I think already, if you're sitting in 11th or further back, you're just sort of trying to hold position at the front of this line, because you've already lost a significant amount of time to the top 10. The gap now 1.6 seconds from Mitchell Riggs to Michael Cozy Jr.
Well, absolutely. I mean, it's all just about give and take back here. I mean, do you want to, press your equipment here and try to make up spots, or do you want to, be in a more comfortable spot? Maybe not press your stuff as much, but again, not have that track position to show for it. I mean, I think we see, especially here out of Michael P. Frisch right now, just trying to make up as much as you can without the expense of your tires and everything like that.
Michael Cozy Jr.'s though. Oh, whoa. One car in the wall there, and trouble a little bit further back. I saw
Davis Warren.
I think just got a piece of that, and Davis Warren in trouble too. Yellow flag out for the first time, but Davis Warren was the first car that went around in 1 and 2 and brought out the yellow flag. Trouble for him on entry into turn 1. We'll see if we can't get a replay momentarily and show you what happened, but that was close for Davis Warren and Trent Curtis.
And you'll see right here, and I think the car just kind of snapped on him under the heavy brake in there, trying to make that corner. And great job by mostly everybody to avoid it there. Had a few guys. I saw another guy clip Davis Warren there. See if we can get an angle of that.
Another good look at this, and yeah, it just looked like he got on the brakes a little bit too hard. The back end went around. The biggest thing, Trent Curtis somehow managed to keep his Monte Carlo off the wall, and I truly don't know how. It was a perfect drift in the middle of the corner, so he might be down on tire wear a little bit, but no damage. Biggest key for him is everybody else comes down pit road.
That's what it's all about. I mean, you can change a set of tires, but damage here is going to affect you all race. So to keep that car clean, it's definitely what you want to see.
So you've got your leaders from that opening stint in. Meanwhile, some of the drivers that were a little bit further back taking the opportunity to stay out front. And will wait for their opportunity to come down pit road. So you'll have a 15-lap difference in tires between the top 9 cars and then everybody else, which David Brown, Michael P. Frisch, Ethan Quarter, somewhere in that ballpark. One of those will be the leader of the cars that have already come down pit road. Now, Caleb, little nugget here that I got slipped to me, and I'm very excited for it because I know how big it is. Did you know that there are only 16 days left until the Bar Visuals FTF 500?
Every day keeps getting closer and closer, really, and I can't wait.
It really does. I kept thinking, wait, we've got like 2 or 3 weeks, but no, we're only 16 days away. You've got practice coming up this weekend during the Real Life Rolex 24. You can head to ftf.gg for more information. You can visit the Discord server to sign up. Registration also enters you into the FTF Cup Series season for 2023 as well. But this is the big event, the Bar Visuals FTF 500. 2 weekends of racing in the largest Daytona 500 style event on the scene. If there's one that you want to win, Caleb, that may be paired with an NIS race.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, another stat here that blows my mind as well is once the clock ticks midnight tonight, we will be officially a week away from qualifying, and that's always just such a fun event to have everybody whittled down to the best of the best for that main event. It's just an event like no other. So I can't wait to get to cover it and get to see what this year has in store for us.
Will be a lot of fun when we head to the virtual high banks of Daytona International Speedway beginning next weekend. Pace car lights are out, though. We will return to action here in the Come to Richmond 150. Sean Peleg, Logan Helton, Kevin McAdams, part of the drivers that are going to try and make old tires work. David Brown restarting in 10th, the first driver that came down pit road as the green flag is back out. We are underway. Daniel Falkingham immediately to the inside of Mitchell Riggs to try and get the 6th position, and we'll keep a close watch on David Brown and see how he carries on with new tires.
And Falkingham with that positioning on Mitchell Riggs right now. You'll see him just off the corner. You don't get as much of a run because there's not as much banking here at Richmond. So it really is just a bottom feeder racetrack. And if you are able to outbrake going into turn 1 or turn 3, then that's where you're going to make up spots here. And you'll see Mitchell Riggs is going to try to put himself back in position here to try to get back around Falkingham. But as of now, slot that number 39 into the 7th position.
The trickiest thing I think about Richmond is that, especially once they reconfigured it, because remember, this was a standard oval for much of its existence and then got the D-oval shape, I believe 1990, 1991, but it changed the way you enter turns 1 and turn 3. Those corner entries used to be identical. Now you could arc it a little bit more into turn 1, and turn 3 tends to be a narrower, straighter entry, and it could cause people some problems.
Absolutely, and in turn 3 as well, you got to keep in mind that maybe you'll start to see these guys get on the throttle just a little bit sooner because they have that D shape to their advantage where they're able to arc that car out. Whereas if you did it in turn 1, then you'd be pancaking the wall. So as you said, a really unique style of racing here at Richmond because of this unique configuration.
22 laps up on the board. Peleg still in control of this. We haven't seen the drivers who came down pit road make all that much progress yet, as you get a good look at some of the battles further back in the field. Michael Sturgill is the one, you see that black and yellow car just to the outside. He is the one suffering the most. Stayed out on old tires, and now we're starting to see some of the drivers on fresh rubber get around him. Adam Martin, just a little bit further up, has maintained his track position decently well, but you're starting to see the difference in rubber age come in here.
Absolutely. I mean, tires are they're so important everywhere we go with these 87s. Hold on, we got 3 wide and out in the back. Adam Martin is going to have to bail from that. Michael P. Frisch, Seth the Merchant as well. And these are your leaders on these new tires. And
There's no way, just based off the way he turned down in the corner, no way that Adam Martin knew that he was the top of 3 wide there.
Yeah, I mean, it's all of a sudden you had Michael P. Frisch right there. You had Seth the Merchant, and again, they're trying to get around you here. They're trying to capitalize on these fresh tires that they just put on these cars. And you see right now, they are just able to pick these guys off at will. David Brown, another one of these guys on the newer tires, and they're just trying to catch up to this group and Mitchell Riggs because everybody up here, these are the guys that stayed out. So if Seth the Merchant can start wreaking some havoc up here in this group, then maybe he'll have a shot at cycling back out as the leader here.
The opportunity is certainly there if you can pay attention and just keep your wits about you in this early stage of the race. Still a lot of time to go. Really good battle, though, here for the 9th position. David Brown looking outside. Tyler Gary in the mix. Dylan Roberts to the inside now of Michael P. Frisch to try and wrest away what would be the 9th position.
And I mean, that's something that's so fun every week about Legends of the Future here is with the race length, that it honestly does feel a lot like a chess match at points where you really do got to think about your moves. You can't be too aggressive. You got to have some patience and some endurance as well. You got to be able to focus at the end of these super long runs. So it's really great just seeing all these guys having to think about their moves, whereas a lot of other places, it would be a lot shorter of a race, shorter stints. And you can see right here, Tyler Gary sending it in underneath Michael P. Frisch, again, trying to break into the top 10 here.
Now, interesting to note here, Seth the Merchant and Dylan Roberts are the first 2 drivers in the running order that got 4 tires. Believe Michael Frisch either got a splash or 2 tires. Not totally sure which, but he did not get a 4-tire pit stop, and now he's fighting for track position amongst Tyler Gary, who got 4 tires, Michael Cozy Jr., who got 4 tires, Jackson von Volkenberg, who got 4 tires, and, oh, by the way, Tyler DeBosch. What did he get? 4 tires.
And even up here with these guys on old tires, you can see Kevin McAdams starting to get a little bit restless. He knows he has the pace over Sean Pelleg right now, and he's trying to whittle his way around this 17 machine. He's just poking that nose anywhere he can to try to see if he can find some speed that Sean Pelleg can't right now. And he was to his quarter just a few laps ago, but you can see now he's trying to arc that corner differently. And I think he will have a run off the backstretch here.
There's so much on the line here for Kevin McAdams as he goes to the inside to take the race lead, give us our 3rd lead change of the evening. But if you're McAdams, how do you handle this knowing that you've got the pressure of maintaining the championship lead, and then you've got the pressure of trying to win this race and put yourself in a good position to have a shot at the title come Charlotte next week?
I mean, quite simply put, I mean, it's just don't do anything stupid here, honestly. I mean, it's lap 31. You can take this lead and you'll be okay. You'll put yourself in great position as well. But, I mean, you don't want to take yourself out of it by doing anything brash here. And that's what Kevin McAdams is so good at is, again, just, not doing anything to put his car in harm's way and capitalizing on it. And as I say that, he's going to get loose there. Great save from Kevin McAdams, but he's going to lose the 2nd position. He's going to fall to 3rd. And a little bit over-aggressive there trying to get the lead from Sean Pelleg. He's going to fall back to the 3rd position here, and that buffer back to Michael P. Frisch going to close ever more.
So Pelleg maintains the lead. Helton now to 2nd. McAdams 3rd. Falkingham 4th. And Seth the Merchant, by the way, up to 7th. You can see him peeking in just in the back corner of your screen behind Gabriel Mauricio. But we are starting to see the drivers with fresh rubber make big moves.
How about drivers on old rubber? Logan Helton now to the inside of Sean Pelleg. They're side by side for the lead here. A little bit of contact going into turn 1. They have the lap traffic of Davis Warren, who was given an EOL because of that last caution. And now Logan Helton on the inside going to try to drive away, but Sean Pelleg's going to have just a little bit of a run, and they're going to be side by side once again. But I think going into turn 3, you can now slot the 63 machine into the top spot here.
You definitely can. Logan Helton to the race lead change number 3 officially there as he jumps in, takes the spot. Look at Daniel Falkingham, though, now making a move to the inside of Kevin McAdams. That would be for the 3rd position.
Yeah, Daniel Falkingham definitely wants to get in on this action as well with this lap car of Davis Warren, maybe hoping they get stacked up just a little bit, but Davis is going to pull the courteous move, pull to the high side, let these leaders go by with no fight. He'll fall a lap down, and Now Logan Helton has clean racetrack ahead of him. So if you're Sean Peleg, if you're Kevin McAdams, you know, you're going to have to start doing something if you want to take this lead, because all these guys behind him, Seth the Merchant is slowly working his way towards this lead pack.
Lots of work to be done as they continue to push on here in the Come to Richmond 150 penultimate race of the season for the Legends of the Future series, presented by Shenandoah Shine. Everybody looking for space somewhere within that top 4, and there's not a lot of room to work with. Everybody right down to the bottom into the tire tracks. You're starting to see that inside groove darken a little bit as it takes rubber and sort of reinforces that is the dominant line around Richmond in the corners. You do not want to be any higher than that.
Absolutely. I mean, we saw it with Adam Martin earlier when he got up out of that groove. It was just like an anchor was attached to the back of that car, and he lost 2-3 spots. And if you don't find yourself back in that groove very quickly, you know, that's just going to continue. So if you do get bumped out of that groove for any reason, you got to scramble to find your way back in a line. And you can see it right here with Kevin McAdams as well. Once again, getting aggressive on the back of the 17 car, trying to move him out of the way.
Helton, Pele, McAdams, Falkingham again to the inside, and ever so slightly, he's bringing Gabriel Mauricio back into this, and Seth DeMerchant is now up to 6. He has cleared Tyler Gary, Dylan Robertson, Alex Kolonix, and Michael Cozy Jr., and they fight for spots a little bit further back. The top 4 now, I think, beginning to realize what's happening and starting to work together a little bit more. Everybody now in single file lines, not fighting each other, because they know the drivers with the fresh rubber are right there on their rear bumpers now.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes you feel just a little bit frantic knowing all these guys are here. They're not just coming, but they are officially here. Seth the Merchant as well, coming to lap 25 on these tires, about a 15-lap advantage. And again, trying to make it around Tyler Gary back here. But I mean, this gap is getting smaller by the lap.
Gary looking to clear Seth DeMerchant and take control of P6 outright. DeMerchant with a good run down the back straightaway. Nothing that Gary can do at this point. He's also got Dylan Roberts and Michael Cozy Jr. right there. Gary got a little bit loose on corner exit. He'll have to slide back in line behind DeMerchant, who maintains 6th.
Seth DeMerchant has really been testing out these other lines. He's been diamonding that corner a little bit so he can get back in the throttle earlier and get that run off exit. And I mean, I think as of right now, it's working, because he has put a little bit of a gap to Tyler Gary. He loses it in the corner, but you can see right there on the straightaway, he just gains it all back going into the corner.
The general concept with that line is that if you run a wider radius, then you don't have to turn the tires as much, as he was sideways coming down the banking out of turn 2. But if you run that higher line, maybe you travel a little bit more, but the thinking here is that the angle at which you turn wears the tire out more than just the outright distance. And if you can drive it straighter, it might allow you to make your tires last longer. That's the theory that Seth DeMerchant is running under. Whether or not it pans out in practice, we'll find out. But for now, he's still leader amongst those cars who came down pit road 30 laps ago.
Gary back to his inside. And another thing to watch here is these guys, we're so far into this run at this point that these guys aren't on fresh tires. I mean, this is a 30-lap stint, so they're on fresher tires for sure than this lead pack. But by no means are these tires in the peak of their lifetime right now. I mean, everybody up here at the front, their tires are probably screaming right now.
In some way, shape, or form, yes, because we know that these tires fall off a lot, as much as any car, as you will find on the oval side of iRacing. There is a tremendous amount of fall off that happens with these machines, and you have to be smart about when you attack, how you attack, and in what way you try to attack the cars ahead of you. Meanwhile, trading of lanes there, we saw McAdams run the inside on Peleg. They swapped over, so now on the inside, trouble though, just a little bit further behind them, and the yellow flag is out for the second time just before the quarter point of the Come to Richmond 150.
And big here, Seth the Merchant. I don't know if he's fallen out of the race, but he is. That car is no longer on the racetrack, and he was up in the top 5.
There were lots of cars that were sideways. Let's go back and take a look at what happened with this battle. Everybody here fighting for positions and just a little bit of a love tap there, I think. And that sent David Brown around. He got help from Alex Kalanick. Brown goes around. Those two stop up on the high side of turn 4. Don't really think there was much else in it, but it's enough to bring out the yellow flag on lap 47 of 200.
I mean, that really illustrates how easy it is to send a car astray here. And you can see great job by everybody to avoid that. But David Brown and Alex Kalanick, definitely not where you want to be there. But everybody now coming down for fresh rubber and some fuel. I don't blame them. Almost 45 laps into that stint for the guys up at the front.
That's a net gain for everybody that decided to stay out under that first caution. They gained the track position. It's Logan Helton that will lead everybody off of pit road. And then McAdams and Peleg and Falkingham and Mauricio and Gary, the next cars off of pit road. We will take a quick commercial break and then be back with more action from the virtual Richmond Raceway. This is the Legends of the Future series presented by Shenandoah Shine on FTF.GG. Welcome back to FTF.GG's Legends of the Future series presented by Shenandoah Shine. Coverage of the Come to Richmond 150. James Black, Caleb Hoffman here as we go back to Green Flag Racing on lap 52. Logan Helton, your leader now. Kevin McAdams, second. Battle is on for third already between Sean Pelling and Daniel Falkingham.
And that caution really was just a great equalizer. These guys, these top five, again, were just hoping for one, and they finally got one now to have an opportunity for these guys like Tyler Gary, Michael Cozy Jr. to not have a tire advantage on them, and very grateful for it right now as Daniel Falkingham looks like he'll try to get to the inside of Sean Peleg here.
Falkingham had a thought to try to get inside Peleg, thought better of it. Everybody single file up at the front. Your first side-by-side battle have to go way back in the field. David Brown and Michael Sturgill for 15th and 16th. Not a lot of people, it seems like, interested in trying to make moves for position yet.
And not quite. I mean, we're not seeing so much as aggression right now from everybody outside of Daniel Falkingham, who is definitely trying to tempt that line, but more so just capitalizing off mistakes. If the guy in front of you misses his marks by just a little bit, then be there and take that spot from him. But otherwise, we are just seeing a lot of guys that are pretty just content with where they're running right now. Don't want to force the issue too much because we are only, just above a quarter through this race right now. There's plenty of time to make your moves here at the end. Just got to get there first.
Also worth noting that for those interested in what happened to Seth DeMerchant, you might have noticed him down at the bottom of the scoring pile on there. Issues with his brake pedals. He has pulled the car behind the wall, and he is our first official retiree of the evening. So DeMerchant will finish in the 26th spot. Meanwhile, Logan Helton has stretched his lead out over Kevin McAdams to 0.3 of a second, and that is growing ever so slightly. We saw how good Helton was in the All-In 650 a few weeks ago in these cars. We're seeing more of that prowess here on display tonight at Richmond.
Absolutely. To be able to get in front of a guy like Kevin here and just click off laps is really impressive, and especially building the margin like he is in that 63. So a really impressive display from him. Looking back through this field, though, again, just seeing a lot of guys that are okay running single file. Your first side-by-side battle is going to be all the way back for P20, which is going to be Alex Kolnick and Danny Thompson, who are currently side-by-side trying to capitalize on each other here. But for the most part, everybody just happy with where they're running right now. But look at that, Daniel Falkingham. Which
I was about to say, it was the first side-by-side battle. Not anymore. That's Daniel Falkingham to the inside of Peleg. Falkingham is trying to make this move for about the last, 20 laps or so, if you count that run before the most recent yellow flag. And to the inside of Peleg, he will go, working for position. Still not quite clear of the Michigan Wolverine. Maybe coming out of 2, not quite. Still there by a bumper, and now he completes the pass. So now Falkingham up officially to 3rd. Kevin McAdams still in 2nd, and he is the next man on the list for Falkingham, who continues his ascent through the field. Started in the 20th position, up to 3rd. On the pylon right now.
I mean, this 39 car on pace is just clicking off laps one after another, and he does certainly have a lot of it. Right now, again, trying to get to the back of Kevin McAdams right now. And, outside of these leaders with Logan Helton and Kevin McAdams, who do have, a bit of clean air, I mean, Daniel Falkingham is the fastest car on the racetrack. So we're in a linear order here with Logan Helton, Kevin McAdams, and Daniel Falkingham. The cream has risen to the top, as they say. Oh, one car just tagged the wall.
One car indeed, as we see lots of action a little bit further back in the field. Good stuff here. Lots of fighting, everybody working for position. This is Ethan Corder and Michael Sturgill. I think Corder might have gotten the fence on the entry into turn 1. We're seeing a lot of these drivers struggle with rear brakes on these cars. The back ends of these machines fishtailing out a little bit. Everybody needs a lot of front brake, obviously. This is Richmond after all, but if you don't apply the brake pedal correctly, you can whip the rear end out from underneath you and spin yourself out, just like we saw with Davis Warren earlier tonight.
Yeah, and I went back and checked that replay real fast, and it was Ethan Corder who tagged the wall as well out of turn number 2. So twice in one lap for Corder, and that opened the door for Sturgill to get underneath him. So Ethan Corder right now has just got to regain his bearings and resurveil this and just get a rhythm established once again, because that can knock you off your groove pretty well. But he's done a pretty nice job of recovering. He was able to slot back in behind Michael Sturgill, and he looks like he'll be okay on that 18.
Helton, McAdams, Falkingham, Peleg, and Gabriel Mauricio up into the top 5. Worth noting that the back half of the top 10 in particular littered with drivers who started 10th or worse. Interestingly enough, 19th, 20th, and 21st on the grid in Michael P. Frisch, Tyler Gary, and Daniel Falkingham running in 8th, 6th, and 3rd, respectively. So some of these drivers that ran well in qualifying, not necessarily maintaining the race pace.
And I mean, looking right now, still just watching these lap times to see where we are in terms of fall off, and it's definitely starting to show at this point in the run here. On this run, looking at Kevin McAdams, for example, he did set his fastest lap on this run, and that's fallen by almost a second at this point. So these guys are just still trying to handle these cars. Right now is a little bit of contact between Falkingham and Kevin McAdams. going to get back sorted out, but that was a close call in turn number 4 for the 26 and the 39.
Does that count as the thunder for Thunder Dan? Perhaps should we be expecting the lightning maybe in a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, with how aggressive this 39 has been, it certainly feels that way. But after that move, he's going to have to, again, just find his place in line and settle down for a few laps here, because that was close.
Speaking of aggression, here's a really good battle just a little bit further back. Tyler Gary, Gabriel Mauricio, and Michael Cozy Jr. Michael P. Frisch just off the tail end of this, as are Dylan Roberts and Tyler Dubage. This all for 5th on back. This covers you all the way to P10, and they are in a pretty good scrap as the leaders begin to put some distance between themselves and this battle.
Yeah, when these leaders are single file like they are, being side by side like this can be a huge detriment when you're trying to not only run down the guys in front of you, but race the ones next to you. So I think this battle for right now is going to subside, but definitely something to keep an eye on here. Once again, up at the front, though, looking at the 39 machine of Daniel Falkingham, he's just starting to get frustrated being behind this 26 car. We saw him with a slight bit of contact in turns 3 and 4 the last time these two got close together, and once again he's going to have an opportunity dipping down underneath the 26. Looks like, didn't quite get the braking zone he wanted, almost lost it, and Kevin's going to have the run off the corner again, but that 39 car is there.
It is indeed, as we continue to work our way through this coming to Richmond 150, just about on lap 75 of 200, closing in on the halfway point of tonight's race. Logan Helton out in front by half a second over Daniel Falkingham, who is up to P2 from 20th on the grid of 26 drivers. No one has passed more cars in tonight's race up to this point than him. Then a really good battle for 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, because McAdams is backed up a little bit into Peleg, and Tyler Gary and Michael Cozy Jr. have advanced through the field a little bit, so everybody's sort of coming together right around that 3rd spot, and as Helton and Falkingham create some distance, these 4 now beginning to get into a scrap for the final spot on the podium.
And fall off is certainly starting to get to guys like Kevin McAdams, especially. He was dipping into the 25s. He's gotten that lap time back down to around a 24.7 where everybody else is. But that one bad lap has really put these guys like Sean Peleg, Tyler Gary right at his bumper. Gary now trying to get around that number 17 machine, but I don't think he's going to have the real estate to operate there. He's going to peek that nose to the outside. I think he might have a lane here on the backstretch. He's going to tag the wall just a little bit, but he is now to the outside, and he's going to try to pass the 17 on the outside.
So Gary going around the high line, doing it the hard way in these 87 cars to pass Peleg, who, remember, was one of the ones that stayed out. A lot of the drivers who were able to stay out on that first caution gained the track position and cycled back into the same strategy with everybody else. But now there's some of these drivers who had the pace early on, who qualified well, are beginning to make their way forward. We're starting to see some of those drivers who play the strategy card correctly fall off a little bit.
Logan Helton here trying to operate around lap car of Davis Warren once again. But another thing that I'm keeping my eye on here is Logan Helton. Slowly but surely, Daniel Falkingham is starting to whittle down that lead. And his lap time's right now about about 1/10 quicker. That lap, Daniel Falkingham was slower. But, I mean, the almost 10 laps before that, Daniel Falkingham consistently was running faster than Logan Helton here. So that 39 starting to get a little bit bigger in the rearview mirror, and that's not what you want to see if you're the 63 machine out front.
That is not what you want to see at all, because Falkingham has been running down Helton the last few laps. It was 6/100ths of a second at the stripe last time by, and Falkingham has been consistently quicker, anywhere from half a tenth to a tenth in the last 10 laps or so. Meanwhile, Kevin McAdams beginning to hold on to that 3rd position. Tyler Gary is starting to make a charge, and Michael Cozy Jr. now looking to the inside of Sean Peleg, just a little bit further back for what would be the 5th position if he could complete that pass.
coming here to complete. This is the 31st lap of this stint for these guys up at the front who pitted under that last caution and tire wear once again. I mean, I know it's sounding like a broken record here, but I mean, it's just so important here how these tires fall off and how much of a struggle it is to wrangle these cars, not only around this racetrack, but especially when you're trying to advance your position, looking at some of these battles like Tyler Gary, Kevin McAdams right now. It is just so challenging. And you can see Tyler Gary once again here trying to make that high line work, but doesn't quite have it on Kevin McAdams. He's still trying to figure out ways to get around this 26. But right now, it's going to stay how it is with this Kevin McAdams machine in front of Tyler Gary.
For how much longer can McAdams keep Gary at bay? And for how much longer can Gary force the issue without burning up his tires? We have to remember there are two sides to this as Michael P. Frisch goes sideways and saves it, but drops on the apron and will drop about 10 spots in the running order. It will be back to 12th for Michael Frisch after running in 713th, actually, so officially 6 spots that he loses off of that slide of 1 and 2. Meanwhile, further up the field, here comes Tyler Gary, finally to the inside of Kevin McAdams for the 3rd position.
And that's a very tough break for Michael P. Frisch there, losing all those spots. But meanwhile, side by side here with Tyler Gary, he's going to try to get into turn 3. And I think he's going to be able to clear Kevin McAdams here off the corner. So great job by Tyler Gary there to make that a very brisk, swift move around this 26 machine. Slot number 86 in his 2nd position. But here comes Michael Cozy Jr., and he sees these two guys battling up ahead of him, and he thinks maybe he can capitalize on it here.
How much faster is Daniel Falkingham, is Tyler Gary, is Michael Cozy Jr., than Logan Helton and Kevin McAdams? That's the question we have to ask at this point at the stripe. It was a 96 to a 98, so Helton actually faster than everybody else at this point, but very, very close. And we saw with Michael Frisch just a few moments ago, one slip, you will drop 5 positions here like that.
Absolutely. And I mean, when you are talking about long green flag runs like this, there are ebbs and flows with how these guys are running. You know, Logan Helton earlier was just, it felt like he was bleeding lap time, and Daniel Falkingham was, it was almost inevitable that this Pepsi machine was going to catch Logan Helton. But now, as we've gotten further into this run, you know, Logan Helton maybe taking a little bit easier has come into play here, where he is now, you know, putting a little bit of a gap on Daniel Falkingham. He's able to just consistently run these better lap times, whereas earlier in the run, that was just not the case.
Well, it's the pendulum that swings back and forth and back and forth. Last time by, it was Falkingham up by a 10th. Meanwhile, interesting to see Kevin McAdams here starting to mirror Tyler Gary. It almost seems like McAdams isn't necessarily looking to pass Gary. He's more, I think, trying to figure out what line Gary is running and whether or not there might be some speed to be gained by changing the way he approaches these corners and copying what Gary does to get that half a tenth or a tenth to try and claw back the distance to Falkingham and to Helton up front.
And I think a part of this, too, is he's also just trying to keep his spot in line. And, I mean, we saw it earlier, Michael Cozy Jr., when these guys were battling and were side by side trying to pass each other. Michael Cozy Jr. was closing in quickly. And now that Kevin McAdams is, you know, stepped back and thought, hey, wait a minute here. By running right behind Tyler Gary here, I mean, these two are running a little bit faster on the racetrack. So Michael Cozy Jr. still there for sure, but it's not as an impending case here for this 99 machine, as he's slipping a little off the exit at 2.
Rolling out, here comes Michael Cozy Jr. Yet again, he's starting to gain on McAdams. We'll look at the times last time by, and it's consistently been a 10th that Cozy has had on McAdams, on Gary and company. Last time by, though, Logan Helton was the fastest. He gained the 10th that he gave up to Daniel Falkingham right back. And that's sort of how it's been the last 15 laps. One of these drivers gives up a 10th, and then they get it back, and then they give it up, and then they get it back, and it goes back and forth again and again and again to where the lead is held at about anywhere from half a second to 7/10.
And I mean, another guy that's just bleeding out lap time right now is this number 17 machine, and Sean Peleg, who you saw Dylan Roberts there, was able to swiftly past him, and it just made it look easy around this number 17. I mean, he is just not acclimating well to this late race run here. And
Tyler's are gone, I think, for Sean Peleg, or at least more worn out than a lot of his competitors. That would explain why he's dropping down the running order. David Brown is next in line to pass him for 7th and move Peleg back to 8th, should that happen in the next few laps or so. Meanwhile, nothing at the front still. Watching lap times as they come across the stripe each and every lap, and it's still relatively even. Yellow flag out, though. Trouble further back in the field. The yellow flag is out once again. Not sure where that started, but we will see what brought out the yellow here on lap 91.
Yeah, and it's going to be in turns 1 and 2 there. Heard Chris Yankee come over the radio. He was in a little group with Adam Martin, and you see that's Lucas Plessel right there in the 45, and that car just gets out from underneath him, which is so easy to do late in a run like this, and going to smack the wall. Considerable amount of damage on that 45 machine. But that, again, completely changes it, because we were looking at the outlook of these tires. You know, maybe we start to see some green flag pit stops, and now everybody once again going to be coming into pit road, just slotted as they run.
So pit stops here for just about everybody after 45 laps on these tires. You run almost a quarter of the race on this set, so I would be shocked if anybody decides to try and stay out. Biggest question, though, Caleb Hoffman, is who ends up with the good pit stop, who ends up with the poor one. The variation here on pit stops is about 2 seconds, even if you do everything right. So you could gain a lot of spots. You could fall back a bunch, too. Just depends on how your pit stop goes.
Yeah, I mean, getting in your box here is so important. You don't want to make any dumb mistakes here. And looks like all of our leaders going to get in their box cleanly. And I mean, 4 tires fuel here is a call for everybody with how late into that run we were. So I think the question here is where you're positioned on pit road. Maybe does Daniel Falkingham get an advantage here, and he's off and away right here. And I think he might have a shot. He will win the race off pit road over Logan Helton.
That was a beautiful stop, and we talked about it. The variation between Falkingham and Helton, 1.2 seconds, and that's why Falkingham will be your new race leader when we get back to Green Flag Racing. We will take a quick break and then be back with more action from the Come to Richmond 150. This is the Legends of the Future series presented by Shenandoah Shine here on FTF.GG. Welcome back to coverage of the Come to Richmond 150, the Legends of the Future series presented by Shenandoah Shine here on FTF.GG. Green flag out on lap 97, just shy of halfway. Daniel Falkingham, your new race leader after starting 20th on the grid earlier this evening. Helton back to second, Michael Cozy Jr. third. Where does the battle develop here? How about Cozy to the inside of Helton for second?
And maybe starting to see a little bit of aggressiveness here out of the Michael Cozy Jr. machine. You saw how strung out they got on that long green flag run. If we get another one, you want to be able to make up all your spots in mass quantities. And this is the perfect opportunity on fresh tires. He's to the inside of Logan Helton right now. Has a little bit of a run. The car's going to step out just a little, but he's going to keep his foot on the throttle. They're still side by side going down into turn number 3. Logan Helton, though, holding his own on the outside here.
All the while, Falkingham is getting away ever so slightly. It's not a lot, but yellow flag is out once again. Art Reimer in trouble coming out of turn 4, and caution here at Richmond on lap 99 of 200. Two incidents actually here, because Adam Martin also went around in 1 and 2, and then Reimer went around in 3 and 4. Here's the Reimer incident. You just saw Martin. Reimer again sort of drifts up the racetrack a little bit. Almost think he might have tried to get on the power a little bit too quickly, and nothing that poor Justin Malillo could have done to avoid him, though I don't think Malillo has all that much damage on his car anyway.
Yeah, Malillo seems to be okay. But I actually think it's the opposite for Art Reimer. I think he felt the car trying to step out on him, and just, instead of overcorrecting, he kind of just let it run where it was, and that led the car around. And again, nothing Justin Malillo could do there, but tough break for him. But that car should be okay. I guess this is the first real opportunity that we might see any divergence in pit strategy, and I think all these guys up at the front kind of have the same goal in mind here. They just came down the pit road. There's no reason to give up this track position. But everybody in the back is, maybe considering what a marginal advantage on tires would do for you here.
Reimer, Frisch, and Malillo, the three that decide to come in for service. We can also tell you that Ethan Corder, Lucas Plessel, Davis Warren have joined the DNF list. 4 cars now out, leaving us with 22 running at the virtual Richmond Raceway. We have just crossed the halfway point, lap 101 of 200.
And I mean, looking at all these guys up front, right now, you saw in that restart how aggressive Michael Cozy Jr. was. And I think on this restart, you see no different here. He's going to be starting right behind Daniel Falkingham and Logan Helton here. I think maybe you see the 99 try to dip out and get around Logan Helton here in turn 1, because, again, he wants to have a shot at Daniel Falkingham. He doesn't want to be in a prolonged battle like he was last run that lets Daniel Falkingham get away. So as quickly as Michael Cozy can make this move, the better for that 99 machine. But that 63 was holding his own and was very strong on the outside. So that's easier said than done for this 99 for sure.
Very much so. Cozy has had speed. He has made his way up to 3rd from 13th on the grid. Let's also not forget about the driver behind him, Tyler Gary, who's had so much success in the past year. Newly announced today that he will be driving for Tony Kanaan Esports in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series for 2023. And oh, by the way, as impressive as Falkingham's charge to the front has been from 20th, Gary is up to 4th from 21st. He is nearly passed as much of the field as our leader has, and has plenty of time to go make up those final 3 spots.
Absolutely. Everybody up here in this top 5 has a ton of pace. Daniel Falkingham, obviously, we saw, that last position was giving him a little bit of trouble, so he just went and took it on pit road. But Logan Helton as well has been very fast. Cozy, Gary, obviously, McAdams. So this will be an interesting restart here for sure. Here we come.
Restart is here. Everybody up against the fence. Daniel Falkingham to lead us to green. Gets a decent jump on Logan Helton. Where does Helton go to defend people? Trouble a little bit further back. Yellow flag is out once again, and that had all the markings of a misshift on that restart that brings us back under yellow.
Yeah, and we saw a stack up further up, and then you'll see further in the back here. Keep an eye on this 17 machine. This is on board with Logan Helton. There's Sean Peleg right there, and you see just does not get up through the gears, and nothing that Tyler Dubois in that 60 car can do, because you are trying to all time that restart correctly, and when one guy doesn't go, there's just nothing you can do there. And that sends Sean Peleg, Tyler Dubois spinning through the infield grass here.
I heard the chip clipping just a little bit. It wasn't a lot, but it was just enough to stack up everybody and bring us under the yellow flag once again. And Peleg, after nailing the strategy earlier with those first 2 cautions, runs out of luck now and falls all the way back to 21st, which is exactly where Tyler Gary started the evening. Life is cyclical here in the Legends of the Future Cup Series presented by Senator Shine on FTF.GG.
was top tier there, Pike. looking back, that was a bad restart there for Michael Cozy Jr. And that's, I mean, again, who I have my eye on here. Logan Helton as well. You know, he really wants to get around this Daniel Fockingham machine because, again, he was out ahead of him for so much of that second run that we had. But with these cautions coming out the way they have been, it's going to be difficult to get that spot back. So every restart that passes, you know, it's just a little bit more aggressive, especially as we start taking laps off here towards the end.
You start running into that game of, you know, you want to try and pass people and you want to be more aggressive, but then we get a yellow flag and you don't have as many laps. So then you feel like you have to be even more aggressive to try and get the same track position. And you end up more and more often getting into more wrecks. And it's one and then the other and then one and then the other. And did I not just say life was cyclical a minute ago? It's sort of cyclical in that way too. The circle of life moves us all here at Richmond.
Yeah, one could say cautions breed cautions, maybe.
Okay. All right.
You heard that one before.
I Tennessee guy quotes Tennessee guy. Man, can I go to your lottery and put money in that so I can get my payout? Or do you want to tell me? You want to tell me any Tennessee futures bets you want to feed me, Caleb, so I can make money later?
Oh yeah, big balls guy.
Yeah, I better say basketball might actually be worthwhile. That'll be the third Saturday in October. Looks like a very nice basketball rivalry. In the department of things I didn't think we'd say tonight, things I did think we were going to say tonight. So we've got a restart coming our way here on lap 109. Going to be 92 laps to go. Fockingham, your leader still. Helton, Cozy, Gary McAdams, your top five, and looks like we had Art Reimer, Peleg, and Tyler DuBois come in for tires under this yellow. So you have those three who came in. You've got Malillo and Fritsch that have 7-lap-old tires. Everybody else on 14-lap-old tires. As the pace car ducks down to pit road, and Daniel Fockingham will lead them back to green.
Good job by Fockingham there on that restart. Hesitated just a little bit, and it stacked everybody up behind him, and he's already built a gap up for himself back to Logan Helton. You can see him starting to fan out just a little bit. Dylan Roberts underneath the 26 of Kevin McAdams. They're still going to be side by side, but Roberts going to have the position on Kevin McAdams here. Entering the corner. Just a little bit of a runoff for Kevin there, and that 74 machine. He's got to hold on, but here comes David Brown as well.
David Brown working hard, trying to make it happen, continuing to charge on the inside. He's had a wild night. Let's be fair. Brown has been as far back as about 15th, as far up as about, call it 4th or 5th. He's been in a lot of different places in this field now that we are getting towards the business end of things, beginning to work his way back up towards the front, and takes the position over Dylan Roberts to get to the 6th spot. Ashton Slice. Whoa, I think Slice might have picked up the fence on corner exit there. I saw his 4th Thunderbird bounce off the wall just a little bit. We'll see whether or not there's damage and whether or not Michael Sturgill can take advantage to get the 8th spot.
Another guy up ahead of him, Dylan Roberts there. He was trying to be the aggressor on that restart, trying to get around the Publix machine of Kevin McAdams, but that situation flipped on its ear rather quickly because David Brown found his way underneath the 74. He tagged the wall coming off turn 2 the lap before Ashton Slice, and all of a sudden he fell back all the way to 7th. You know, a flip of 2 positions there for the 74 machine. And again, just everybody starting to get a little stacked up here. As we are still pretty early in this run. Man, they are really killing that wall out of turn 2.
And you would expect it. Out of turn 2 in particular, that's where most of the issues end up happening here at Richmond. Meanwhile, no change amongst the top 5 after those passes right off the restart. And really no one battling side by side for position either. The closest thing, honestly, Mitchell Riggs, Alex Kolonix, somewhere in that ballpark, right around the 10th spot. But everybody else at this point just looking to complete lap after lap after lap and make sure they don't put themselves in a position to where they may end up hurting themselves. But as soon as I say that, here comes Michael Cozy Jr. to the inside of Logan Helton for second.
And again, just trying to tick off laps here, and a great move by Cozy there. He's going to find his way around Logan Helton there, which is no easy task. And now his goal moves on to that lead car of Daniel Falkingham, who has built himself almost a half a second margin back to Michael Cozy Jr. And now we'll see if he can start to make that up as we tick laps off further.
We will see how this all pans out. Falkingham up in front. Cozy, however, was faster by a 10th that last time by, and that was with the pass as well. As they come across the stripe now, a 37 to a 35. So Cozy 2/100ths faster. I suspect we may see a battle for the lead in about 5 to 10 laps or so at this rate. Cozy just a little bit faster than Daniel Falkingham, working our way towards lap 120 of 200 at Richmond.
Another thing as well you might notice here is the shadows starting to get a little bit longer here at Richmond, and this track temp as well starting to drop, and the yellow flag looks like it has come out. And looking at the 97, that's Jackson Van Valkenburg, who was running in the 12th position, and it looks like he might have had a little bit of contact.
Now this too, I think, is a case of just trying to get on the gas a little bit too much. He, I think, got back to the gas pedal a little bit too quickly, realized it, tried to correct it, and by the time he was sideways, there's absolutely nothing that we would have been able to do if you are in the machine right behind him.
Yeah, Gabriel Mauricio there, and great job by Race Control there. Friendly Face and Josh Mendoza on Race Control there tonight. That is another caution here for us, and once again going to bunch up the field here. And it's a different dynamic here, as now you see, big move from Michael Cozy Jr. there. He's going to dip down on the pit lane as most of the field will follow, and that's going to leave Daniel Falkingham, our leader, out as sitting duck.
If there is any consolation for Daniel Falkingham, there are two pieces. One is that Alex Kolonix and Trent Curtis decided to stay out. The second is that if this is going to happen, at least it's happening now as opposed to the absolute end of the race.
Yeah, for sure. Even if he does get swallowed up on this restart, he's going to have time to recover for sure. But I don't know. That 39 car has been extremely quick tonight, so if anybody has a shot at staying out there on old tires and fending off this field, I think it is Daniel Falkingham. So we'll take a look here and see how this restart plays out. Tyler Gary going to win the race off of pit road. Michael Cozy Jr., as well as the rest of the field, shuffles behind him. Kevin McAdams, Logan Helton, Ashton Slice.
Continuing to all work for position as they continue to work under yellow flag here at Richmond Raceway. Those top three stayed out. Everybody else came down pit road, and Chris Yankee with a little bit of pit strategy. I believe that might have been either a two tire or a fuel stop only for him. Everybody else got 4 tires. So Tyler Gary, the leader amongst that group on the, call that the A strategy, I suppose, now, given that you've got about 20 cars running it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's safe to say for sure. You're going to have 3 cars here that have stayed out. Big gains for Alex Kolonix and Trent Curtis. Again, they're going to be disadvantaged in their tires at this point in the run, almost 30 laps into this. But, if you can catch a caution just right, like we've been seeing, where maybe they get stacked up on the restart or something to that effect, this can pay off for these top 3 who will have a shot here. To maybe not bleed out as many spots as they would otherwise.
Falkingham's still the leader. Light still on the pace car as well, so we'll have the opportunity to roll around and remind you all 16 days until the FTF 500. Are you excited, Caleb Hoffman, like everybody else should be?
Oh, yeah. I mean, for sure. Not only do we have the FTF 500 presented by Bar Visuals, but we have the entire week of racing leading up to it. We got, heats. You'll have the DC and B mains trying to determine the field. You'll have duels. You'll have qualifying. You'll have the clash. Everything leading up to the Bar Visuals FTF Cup Series season in 2023. It's all right on the brink of happening.
Yeah, preseason thunder is not broadcast. It's the only thing that's not broadcast. Pole qualifying next Friday and Saturday, the Clash and the duels next Friday and Saturday, and then very, very busy Friday, February 10th. A potential D main, a C main, and the Tiny Text 500K to set the grid for the big show. Saturday night, 9:15 p.m. Eastern, the bar visuals FTF 500 right here on FTF.GG. You will not want to miss one of the biggest races in all of the oval side of iRacing. Green flag is back out here in the Come to Richmond 150 for the Legends of the Future series presented by Shenandoah Shine at Richmond, and it is still Falkingham in control. But look at Tyler Gary immediately working to the inside of Chris Yonke, who could not get down to the bottom, and now I think is about to get freight trained by all these cars with the fresh tires. It's Gary who will now try to go to work on Trent Curtis. He's to the bottom of the Winston machine. It's now Falkingham and Alex Kalanick, the only two drivers in Tyler Gary's way.
And Tyler Gary with what some would call the pit stop of the century there, as he is just an absolute rocket right now with that 99 and Michael Cozy Jr. behind him. And this tire advantage, you're going to see it, especially through the corners here on Alex Kalanick and Daniel Falkingham. This 86 is just picking up ground no matter where he runs.
Trent Curtis is already back to the 6th position after restarting in the top 3, and it's not getting any better for him. Tyler Gary, meanwhile, eating up the gap that Alex Kalanick had off that restart. They're continuing to fight. Yep, a little bit further back. There's contact. Meanwhile, here comes the battle for second as Tyler Gary has made it to the rear bumper of Alex Kalanick.
Looking further in the back, Ashton Slice and Logan Helton, they're trying to get around this slow car of Trent Curtis, who did stay out there as aforementioned, and they are making plenty of contact. Further back up at the front, though, Tyler Gary, Michael Cozy Jr. trying to work their way around Alex Kalanick. They're going to have the position, and Tyler Gary will be clear. Now it's Michael Cozy Jr., who, off of turn number 4, is going to have the 3rd spot over Alex Kalanick.
Here comes the freight train around Alex Kalanick. Gary has already made the pass. Cozy will complete it here sometime this lap. It will then be on Kevin McAdams to make the move as well. And Gary has just sawed off the gap to Daniel Falkingham. He was there. He was faster by a solid half a second almost last time by. And this might be quick work here. Falkingham slides down the front stretch as Tyler Gary goes to the inside at Richmond for the race lead entering turn 1.
Daniel Falkingham doesn't want to forfeit this race lead, but I don't think he's going to have much of a choice here. Tyler Gary slot that 86 into the lead here. Michael Cozy Jr. following suit behind him. And maybe even Kevin McAdams will be able to get around this 39 machine as well. So, I mean, you might see, from the lead to outside of the podium here in just a matter of laps for Daniel Falkingham.
That was closer. McAdams, who drove it in very deep into turn 1 and nearly washed up the racetrack and collected Daniel Falkingham in the process. Falkingham will back out of it, get back in line, and he will sit in behind McAdams in the 4th spot. And now, if you're Falkingham, I think you're just trying to hang on to the next yellow flag and make sure that you don't lose too much track position. Meanwhile, Michael Cozy Jr. to the inside of Tyler Gary for the race lead on lap 131.
Cozy pushing Gary up the track just a little bit, and if you're in 3rd and you're the Kevin McAdams machine, this is exactly what you want to see. You want to see these guys battling up ahead of you so you can put yourself back in it. Oh, and they're wrecking behind him. Mitchell Riggs, Michael P. Frisch in turn number 4 just got sent around, and caution flag is out here at Richmond.
Trouble with Michael P. Frisch, who ended up sideways right in the middle of the racetrack in turns 3 and 4. And that was, I think, everybody fighting for the same position. That's a tricky one there. You see the replay. Ashton Slice, I think, didn't expect anybody to go 3. Michael P. Frisch had just enough room to consider it and took it. And then Slice drove down and nothing that poor Mitchell Riggs could have done. He was stuck right in the middle of that. He goes sideways, as does Frisch. I don't think anybody else got caught up in this miraculously, but Frisch loses all the track position and will have to make his charge from 22nd on the grid. But this is a great break. If you're any of the drivers that decided to stay out, Daniel Falkingham in particular gets the lucky break now to come in and not fall too far off cycle. However, he will now be starting in in the 19th position.
I mean, again, Daniel Fockingham, no stranger to working his way up through the field on these fresh tires. He's already done it once, so he'll just have to do it again. Another wrinkle thrown into this was Ashton Schleiss, who was up in the top 10, was given an EOL for causing that wreck. And actually, I'll take that back. Joshua Mendoza just corrected himself and declared it a racing deal. So that 69 will retain his track position. But up at the front, Tyler Gary, Michael Cozy Jr., Kevin McAdams, they're going to have a grip over this race right now. But I mean, still, even despite being on those older tires earlier and being off cycle, I wouldn't count out Daniel Fockingham. I think he has a very real shot of being able to work his way up here in the next 67 laps back up to the front.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch. Indeed, race control calling that last incident a racing deal, so no fault charge to any of the drivers involved. And it's just a yellow flag that resets us with 67 laps to go at Richmond. And to come to Richmond 150, penultimate race of the season for the Legends of the Future Series presented by Shenandoah Shine. One more race coming up at 9 p.m. or 8:45 p.m. rather next Thursday night from Charlotte Motor Speedway, and lots of action to happen at the home of the World 600 back in the day. Meanwhile, lights still up on the pace cars, so we'll have the opportunity to roll around for another lap or two and reset ourselves before either another green flag run or another short run off the yellow. Seems like we've gotten a few of both here in the first 140 laps or so.
And again, just conjecture right here, but Charlotte definitely shaping up to be a good one next week, the finale for the Legends of the Future Series. Kevin McAdams sitting up here pretty in third. He had a rough week in the Legend 500 last week with Michael P. Frisch winning, but roles have kind of reversed here for Michael P. Frisch, who again was on a really hot streak coming into tonight, but has had a rough round here at Richmond so far. 135 laps through it, sitting back in the 21st position after being involved in that last incident. So he has an uphill battle, especially if he wants to further make a dent in this points lead that Kevin McAdams has built for himself. He's got to make up ground now and next week especially.
This is a very, very big next 60 laps or so for McAdams and Frisch. That wreck was very significant in terms of the championship. You've got a big gap now between those two drivers because you've got Frisch all the way back in the 21st position while McAdams is up into third. Ready to rock and roll as we go back to green flag racing here at Richmond. Gary with the jump over Michael Cozy Jr., then McAdams, then Logan Helton, David Brown, Ashton Schleiss and company. Gary out in front by a car length or two. Meanwhile, Helton trying to hold off David Brown for the fourth spot.
And David Brown with Logan Helton right now, a great battle for the fourth position. Logan Helton with that run just a little bit off the high side. They're still going to be gridlocked right here side by side going into turn number one. Logan Helton right now trying to do what Tyler Gary did earlier and make it stick on the high side, but doesn't quite have it. Going to tag the wall just a little bit, and that's going to give the position to David Brown, and he might even lose more with Dylan Roberts now to his inside and Ashton Schleiss looking to capitalize on as well. But back up front, starting to build a gap, Tyler Gary over Michael Cozy Jr. and Kevin McAdams.
They are all lined up underneath Logan Helton, and it is a worst-case scenario for Helton, who is stuck there, the Florida native, just outside of Ashton Schleiss. He's able to finally duck in line and now see if he can swap lanes and get underneath Dylan Roberts, but he's still back in sixth, not racing for the lead like he had some 60, 70 laps to go. Trouble a little bit further back. Chris Yankee in and around over by turn 4. Trent Curtis got into it with him as well, and the yellow flag out once again. And we'll go back and look at the replay. That looked like Curtis got loose underneath Yankee before anything else happened.
And we'll see the replay right here. And yeah, just nothing really Yankee could do there. Got driven underneath, and that car washed up and sent both of them around. Great recovery there, though, out of the one of Trent Curtis. and they surprisingly kept it pretty straight.
I think the hardest thing here, and what I'm trying to tell, and I can't see it, I'm going back and watching the replay myself, is whether or not Yankee driving down towards Curtis spooked Curtis and made him lose control of the car. Yankee definitely was pointed sort of down that way for a split second. There's no doubting that Curtis lost it underneath him, but did he get help from Yankee driving him so closely? That I cannot tell. We will leave that problem for race control expert of the series, Josh Mendoza, to figure out.
And Logan Helton had a tricky move there, was acting like he was going to come down the pit road, and at the last second, went back out on the racing line. So, and I believe most of the field outside of Art Reimer, Justin Malillo are the only two I see down on the pit road.
Indeed, not too many cars on pit road. That means we will have the opportunity to take another break and be back with more action on the virtual Richmond Raceway. This is the Come to Richmond 150 for the Legends of the Future Cup Series, presented by Shenandoah Shine on FTF.GG. Welcome back to the Legends of the Future series, presented by Shenandoah Shine here at Richmond Raceway. The Come to Richmond 150 about to hit lap 150, and Tyler Gary, your race leader, getting set to lead us back to green. Next time by James Pike alongside Caleb Hoffman, our producer for the evening, Zach Johnson, and good action across the board. We've seen a lot of drivers fall through the top 10, then get into the top 10, then go back out of it, then come back in it. Interesting, we noted earlier, Caleb, that we had a lot of drivers from outside the top 10 that have made their way back in. You go back and look at it now, 6 of the top 10 started in the top 10 as they run. So we sort of cycled back to those who had qualifying speed back up to the front.
Yeah, and again, in the long run here, two guys to keep an eye out for. We were noting how Daniel Falkingham and Alex Kolnick stayed out and were falling through the field, and now all of a sudden with this caution, they now have an advantage on tires. So I'll be interested to see how they get through the field on this restart.
We now carry on and get set to roll as green flag comes back out here. We are 72.5% complete with this race per race control. Josh Mendoza, big fan though, a little bit further back. Logan Helton immediately to the inside of Dylan Roberts. He wants that spot back. Kevin McAdams playing defense from David Brown, who's made a nice charge through the field. And Michael Cozy Jr. once again with an opportunity to try and run down Tyler Gary for first.
Further back in the field, though, 3 wide, and this is for the 9th position. Daniel Falkingham with Alex Kolnick. These two again on the fresher tires, trying to get underneath Jackson Van Valkenburg and Tyler Dubois. And Tyler Dubois really not in an ideal situation here. He's got to back out of this and, again, slot his way back in the line here, or else it's just going to bleed track position. He does a pretty good job of getting behind Valkenburg, but still not going to have that preferred lane. Is Kolnick's going to stack up on that inside line and get a little bit of contact from behind from Michael Sturgill. They keep it straight. Michael P. Frisch involved in this as well. This is one of your championship contenders.
Michael P. Fritz, remember, he was as low as 21st after that incident a few cautions ago. He's back up to 14th, trying to drive through the field to close the gap to Kevin McAdams and make the distance in the points more manageable come next week at Charlotte in the season finale. On board now with Michael P. Fritz to the inside of Mitchell Sturgill. He will go. This would be for 13th if he can complete the pass as they sail off into one.
Kalanick, he's going to wash up just a little bit. You see this on board with Michael P. Frisch, going to cut back down in front of that bar visuals machine's nose, and Frisch going to have to back off for just a little bit, but he's actually going to get into Alex Kalanick, and that's going to send that 22 machine around, and we are under caution. They are wrecking behind them as well. Adam Martin was in it. Art Reimer, Gabriel Mauricio as well.
That was waiting to happen. They were close, and Michael P. Frisch, I think, just got to the back of Alex Kalanick and sent him around, and then Gabriel Mauricio got caught up in it. I think that Art Reimer got a piece of this. Danny Thompson also went around towards the back of the field, and now trouble out in turn 3 and 4. The yellow flag out 3/4 of the way through tonight's event.
Yeah, and I mean, we're definitely seeing a case of two different incidents here. Just a little bit of a stack up that causes this initial contact. Jackson Van Valkenburg and Tyler Dubois in front of this car of Alex Kalanick, who again did have those fresher tires, and is trying to navigate his way around. But Michael P. Frisch, just a slight misjudgment, and that's going to send that front bumper into Alex Kalanick. And then further along in the back, they get stacked up. You see Gabriel Mauricio getting on the brakes there, and just nowhere for everybody behind him to go. Danny Thompson piles in, Art Reimer, Adam Martin all involved as well.
So now 50 laps to go. It resets the field, and everybody from 7th on back in for service. Jackson Von Valkenburg, I believe, with the 2-tire stop. Kevin McAdams, the first with 4. Michael Cozy Jr. also in with 4 tires, and everybody else, it looks like, on pit road doing the same. But now 3 distinct strategies to work with. You've got Gary Brown and Roberts, who have stayed out on 30-lap old tires. Then Curtis and Malillo, who've stayed out on 10-lap old tires. And then Von Valkenburg, and then Denny Thompson coming in for service. Looks like he may have missed his box. He decided to come in later, so he will fall down the running order. But Von Valkenburg on short tires, and then McAdams, your first driver on 4 fresh tires, but in 7th place.
And that's big for sure. As you look at Kevin McAdams right now in 7th position, he is going to be right there behind Jackson Van Valkenburg, second in this line of cars that are now on the newest set of tires on the racetrack. But bigger implications with that caution, looking at the championship fight, is Michael P. Frisch was deemed the cause of that wreck and was thereby given an EOL penalty. So he had crawled his way back up into the 13th position and was looking to maybe advance even further. And now all of a sudden, it's not looking great for Michael P. Frisch. He's got 48 laps to make up, at this point, about 20 spots.
If I'm Michael P. Frisch, I'm okay with having to make up, 10 spots in 50 laps. I'm now very nervous if I have to make up 20 in 50 laps, especially when we consider that Kevin McAdams is the first car on fresh tires. The gap will mean something. The fact that McAdams is his direct rival in the championship and the leading car on 4 fresh Goodyears, it's a scary proposition, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, if nothing else, it cranks up the urgency in Michael P. Frisch's mind at this point. Looking ahead as well, I was kind of baffled by this call out of Tyler Gary, David Brown, and Dylan Roberts on this strategy as well, because I feel like we've almost already seen this played out earlier on with Daniel Falkingham, Alex Kalanick, and Trent Curtis. And again, they just bled lap time on the restart. So maybe we'll see if that's a little bit different as the lights have come on and the last remnants of the sun have gone under the horizon here. But I don't know about this call. I think they're going to be regretting it here on this next run.
You just don't know, though, and that's the beauty of this, especially with all the old tires. You're not sure what to expect. You have no clue what's coming. Lights are off on the pace car. Oh, by the way, air and track temp have dropped a little bit. 69 degrees air temp, 72 degrees track temp. So nice air temp, solid track temp. Now about 6:15 p.m. local time in sim as Tyler Gary jumps off on the restart. Green flag now out. 47 laps to go at Richmond. Now 46 laps to go.
Oh, and you can see the aggression from a lot of these guys. Kevin McAdams on the fresh tires, sent it into turn number 1, but now he is middle 3 wide with Michael Cozy Jr. right behind him. Logan Helton was super aggressive on that restart. Daniel Falkingham as well, trying to capitalize on it. Just misjudged that corner a little bit. Now that's opened up the door for the 63 machine, trying to get around the 26, but a little bit of contact. Jackson Van Valkenburg into the outside wall, but they keep it straight. Sean Pellig as well. It is getting dicey here at Richmond.
And there is nowhere for any of these cars to go because Justin Melillo's right in front of them, and Melillo is on 10-lap older tires, so there's a little bit of tire
Mitchell
wear
Riggs.
here. Oh, big hit for Mitchell Riggs in the back of the field. Yellow flag out once again. That was heavy contact that he made in the entrance to turn 3, and we are going to fall behind the pace car one more time.
And a little bit of controversy over the radio here. Back and forth between the 14 machine and the 09 of Mitchell Riggs. Mitchell Riggs obviously not happy, and Chris Youngke's pleading his case as well. But either way, it was considerable contact that led the 09 into the outside wall. We'll get a replay right here. You'll see it.
It's intriguing. Riggs went low, and then looked to me like Yankee went lower, and we'll get a good look here at how all this pans out. But oh, that was testing. That was close for Michael P. Frisch too, and Ashton Slice, who just managed to sneak through all this. It was very, very close.
And you can see some more contact there with Ashton Slice, and tough for him is I think he took a toe there. Looking back at this initial contact once again, though, again, Mitchell Riggs, he's going to, again, very late, come back down in front of the nose of the 14. So, again, you know, maybe if you're Chris Youngke right there, you don't force the issue. But Mitchell Riggs as well, you can't swipe across his nose at the same time. I think that's kind of a racing deal on both of them, but we'll see what race control dictates right here. Either way, definite uphill battle for Mitchell Riggs in that Richmond Raceway machine.
And race control has put that on Chris Youngke. And race control then, in that case, says that Youngke could have checked up and not run into the back of Mitchell Riggs. So Youngke will go to the back of the line, and he will restart in 21st, I believe, if my math is correct. Meanwhile, let's talk about David Brown and Dylan Roberts for a little bit, because we've not had the chance to do a lot of that. But all of a sudden, here they are. They stayed out some 40 laps ago, have not come in for tires since, and they are second and third. We talked about how David Brown has been everywhere in this field this evening. Dylan Roberts kind of the same, bouncing between the top 5, top 10. But this is the highest that both of these drivers have run since we dropped the green flag to start tonight.
And I mean, David Brown and Dylan Roberts as well, as you said, they have had great pace here so far tonight. And Dylan Roberts especially, you know, we've seen not afraid to mix it up, and another display of that, choosing to stay out here. Again, I was a little hesitant on the call, but if the cautions continue to fall like they have been again with these just rapid pace restarts and then a quick caution flag, then you know it'll be very difficult for these guys on fresher tires to truly capitalize on that, because you're looking back at Kevin McAdams, who again all these guys got shuffled up there, but Kevin McAdams, Logan Helton, Daniel Falkingham on back, and they still have to get around guys like Justin Melillo, Trent Curtis, who are on that again a little fresher tires, but there is a nice little buffer, so. You know, again, I think if these cautions can fall the right way, then this might have a shot of working out for these top three.
If the cautions fall the right way, that's the biggest thing here. They have to fall in a certain order, and I would say at this point you almost have to get a consistent rash of yellows every 5 or 6 laps or so until the very end. I don't think you're going to be able to escape it otherwise, and I also am not convinced that you have enough time if you come down pit road now to make your way all the way back to the front, which if you're any one of Gary or Brown or Roberts would be the case that you'd have to fight if you decide to come down to pit road under the next yellow. You know, let's say we get one in 4 or 5 laps, that leaves you essentially 30 laps to get all the way through this field.
We will see here for sure. Getting ready to take this restart.
Tyler Gary, your race leader, back to green flag racing. We go. Good acceleration for him. No missed gears for anybody behind him. There goes Kevin McAdams.
Oh, Pellig and Van Valkenburg.
trouble further back, and before we even get going, that is everybody there from about 12th or 13th on stacked up. Von Valkenburg was the first one you called out, but there were more than a few drivers involved in that incident. Caleb Hoffman.
Yeah, and looking there from Sean Pellig, it was a similar stack up to the earlier caution where Sean Pellig missed a shift. It wasn't quite as drastic, but just when I thought they were about to recover, Tyler Dubois and Jackson Van Valkenburg made that initial contact, which sent both of them spinning, and the track was just blocked from there on. And Mitchell Riggs, Chris Yonke, once again, after being involved in that last caution, find themselves in the thick of it.
Yeah, that was pretty much everybody from all the way back there. Mitchell Riggs got a piece of this. Yonke got into it. Tyler Dubois caught a piece of this. I saw Adam Martin get up against the fence and just escape it. Art Reimer had nowhere to go. So pretty much everybody from about 15th on back swept up in this.
Look at this replay and keep your eye on that light blue and white car in Alex Kolonix as this stack up starts to happen in front of him. He narrowly misses Tyler Dubois right there and then narrowly misses that inside wall as he dipped off your screen there. We'll try to get another look at that for you, but that was incredible wreck avoidance from that 22 machine.
That was very tight from Alex Kolonix, but very good work from Alex Kolonix just the same. Here's the onboard. You'll see the stack up with Peleg, and then Von Valkenburg's the first one to dip down to the inside, and then everything just breaks there. A big slide to make sure that he doesn't run over Tyler Dubois, and then somehow misses the pit wall there ever so slightly.
And that's a great move there from Alex Kolonix. They're going to call that a racing deal with a reminder from race control that you go from first gear to second gear to third gear to fourth gear, because that's the second time Sean Pellig's had some restart trouble getting up through the gears there.
Indeed, as we will get set to work everything. Also, trouble for Logan Helton, a connection issue for him, and he drops out of the server and has to come back in, but he will lose probably 3 or 4 laps in the process. We'll see how long it takes for him to get back into the server and back in his car, but he loses the track position, so he'll go back to 20th, 21st ballpark of as Tyler Gary and David Brown and Dylan Roberts continue to get the caution laps that they need to make the rest of this strategy pay off.
And more trouble is after that incident, Jackson Van Valkenburg has decided to take the car behind the wall, and he will not return to this race. Looking back up at the front, though, I know 3 very happy faces with how these cautions have been playing out, and that's Tyler Gary, David Brown, and Dylan Roberts. Even Trent Curtis and Justin Malillo have not been cycled out yet from these guys with fresher tires behind them. On the flip side, though, Kevin McAdams, Daniel Falkingham, Michael Cozy Jr., they are about 15 laps on the stint, but how long of this stint has been under caution to where they haven't had to use those tires as much? We'll really have that on display here when we take this restart.
Yeah, there's a huge advantage there. Also, let's take a moment just to shout out Justin Malillo. Announced that he was leaving his post at the Racing Experts after an almost 10-year stay with the organization. Big transition for him and his coverage that he's seen on the real-life side of racing, where he won an award from the National Motorsports Press Association for his work in real-life racing just a few weeks ago. Accomplished on both the real and the virtual side of things is Justin, and wish him all the best wherever his next stop in real life journalism takes him. We'll see how the rest of this race pans out for him as well. Justin, I think, would be the first to admit he might not be the outright fastest on pace, but he's usually been pretty good with strategy, as Tyler Gary and David Brown and company will lead us to green, coming to lap 168 at Richmond, and into coming to Richmond 150.
We'll watch everybody get up through the gears here, but Kevin McAdams dipped out underneath that 53 traction machine as he wants to get around and really make a dent in this buffer ahead of him. He's going to be able to do that with Daniel Falkingham, Cozy following suit, and they're going to all be around Justin Malillo there as he is bleeding out track position now. But looking back behind him, Michael Cozy Jr. trying to get around Daniel Falkingham, in a close call between Sean Pellig and Justin Malillo there.
All eyes here now on McAdams and Trent Curtis, who's got the 4th spot, and Falkingham and Michael Cozy Jr. Peleg. And oh, by the way, Michael P. Frisch is up to 12th already after starting all the way at the back of the field here. It's the 50-lap challenge for him. We'll see how many spots he gains. It's still Tyler Gary, David Brown, and Dylan Roberts at the front, but here comes Kevin McAdams to make the pass on Trent Curtis. McAdams now up into the 4th position, making the charge toward the front. 30 laps to go at Richmond.
We mentioned how that top 3 was really happy with those cautions falling the way they did, but I know that the flip side was Michael P. Frisch was not having an opportunity to make up that ground that he lost after he caused that caution as deemed by race control. But now, maybe if we find ourselves in a run here, he'll be able to tick off some spots. He's got a considerable buffer to Alex Kolnick's ahead of him, but he finds himself in the 11th position trying to break into the top 10 now.
How much quicker can Kevin McAdams and Daniel Falkingham get? Can they chase down Roberts, Brown, Gary, all of the drivers that stayed out on the old tires? Officially, it's 51 laps that are on the tires of the leaders, but as you pointed out, Caleb Hoffman, a little bit ago, the wear is not as bad as you would think because a lot of those laps have been run under the yellow flag, and last time by, the lap times were pretty much right there amongst everybody. Not a huge difference between Gary or Brown or Roberts or McAdams or Falkingham. It was really Trent Curtis that had the first big difference in pace on tires, and he is stuck on the outside here. Michael Cozy Jr. making the pass for 7th. Sean Peleg about to take away the 8th position as he ducks to the inside. So Curtis beginning to fall back to the mid-pack of this field, and everybody else trying to find a way to go run down Tyler Gary, who is not going to complain about clean air and traffic behind him.
And I mean, that's what grabbed my attention immediately was looking at these lap times. Dylan Roberts this last lap, we'll see it if that holds true again at the line, but Dylan Roberts on these older tires was actually running faster than Kevin McAdams in this group that were on the fresher rubber. And looking right now, you can see that reflected in that these top 3 have really broken away. And a lot of that, you know, in part is because this track temperature has been cooling down with the sun not beating down on it as much as we saw in the earlier stints of this race. But now all of a sudden you have this top 3 kind of hoping a caution maybe doesn't come out and they can let this cycle through and maybe build up a bigger buffer back to Kevin McAdams, Daniel Falkingham, and the likes of Michael Cozy Jr. Back in this behind the top 5.
Tyler Gary still in control of this. The gap between him and David Brown and Dylan Roberts has come down a little bit as they come back across the stripe. 25 laps to go here at Richmond, and still Kevin McAdams and Falkingham and Cozy have not found the pace. If anything, they're a little bit slower than Gary and Brown and Roberts. The decision to stay out has paid off handsomely for the top 3, and to add to the frustration on Kevin McAdams, Michael P. Frisch is now back in the top 10 to shrink that points gap a little bit more.
And if you're Kevin McAdams right now, as these laps continue to tick down, only 24 to go, very quickly you have this group behind you where you're trying not to lose these positions to Daniel Falkingham and Michael Cozy Jr., who are very fast, but also you got to make up this time that you're starting to trickle out from this top 3. Where they're starting to pull away from you just a little bit, running about a 10th a lap better as it stands right now. Looking once again, Dylan Roberts, again, almost a 10th quicker than the Kevin McAdams machine.
You almost need a caution now. I think if you're McAdams or Cozy or Falkingham or anybody of that ilk, I don't think there's going to be any chance they can get up to the top 3 unless there is a significant mistake or if the tires fall off massively. But clean air really making a difference for these front 3 who have also worked together. They haven't really fought one another all that much yet. That's not been the case with McAdams, with Cozy, with Falkingham, with Sean Peleg. They were at each other's throats right from the off on these restarts, and I'm wondering now if the decision to try and race for track position is coming back to haunt them.
Yeah, looking back, I thought you mentioned Michael P. Frisch had broken his way into the top 10. And I thought maybe he had passed Alex Kolnick's, but as it runs, it looks like Mitchell Riggs blew the motor and had to use a tow. And so he finds himself on the pit lane now. Now we're actually wrecking in turn number 1 behind him. That's Trent Curtis, who's got around, and Logan Helton as well. Excuse me. Danny Thompson, Justin Malillo did a good job of getting stopped up, and that's the caution that everybody outside of this top 3 needed.
Worst case scenario, if you're the leaders. Best case scenario, if you're everybody else. Helton got a piece of this. Curtis was the one who went around. What does this do for pit strategy? I am almost more concerned about the pit strategy than I am what happened on that incident, because this will be the most significant pit stop of the evening by a while. Curtis just lost it by himself going into one. Maybe got some help from Collins, but here's the big question. Who comes down pit road? It is everybody save for David Brown and Michael Cozy Jr. Those two, the daredevils that will try and make their tires last, as Gary will come in for service. And now it is up to the people on pit road to try and sort out everybody from third on back. Pretty much no stops, or no one staying out rather, besides those front two.
And that is a huge play for Michael Cozy Jr. right there. And I mean, it's hard not to blame him here, or rather hard to blame him here, because, you know, he just watched this top three and Dylan Roberts and David Brown and Tyler Gary pull away from him. So at this point, maybe he's thinking, you know, who needs tires? As long as I can build up enough of a gap on a restart and just run my race and try to get around David Brown here, I have a shot at the win. So I can't blame him after what we've seen with that last run from David Brown and now Michael Cozy Jr. But a lot of guys with considerable pace will be starting on fresh rubber behind him.
Indeed. We'll take one more commercial break and then be back to the finish here in the Come to Richmond 150 for the Legends of the Future Series, presented by Shenandoah Shine, live here from the virtual Richmond Raceway on FTF.GG. Don't go anywhere. We are back to find out who goes to victory lane after this. Welcome back to FTF.TG's coverage of the Legends of the Future Series, presented by Shenandoah Shine. The Come to Richmond 150 now down to its final 16 laps, coming to 15 to go. James Pine, Caleb Hoffman in the booth. Zach Johnson, our producer. David Brown, our race leader, on 65-lap-old tires. Michael Cozy Jr. in second on 30-lap-old tires. Everybody else came down pit road, but the next five drivers got two tires. Your fresh tire driver leading everybody, Tyler Gary, at 8th, as we go back to green flag racing at Richmond.
Oh, and contact between Alex Collins. He's going to run back up into the middle of traffic. Justin Malillo with nowhere to go, and we are under caution once again. Another stack up on a restart, and we are frustrated over the radio right now.
Yeah, I would imagine there's got to be a lot of it. Collins and Tyler Gary getting into it here a little bit towards the end of this, and that's a killer for Gary, who was on fresh rubber, and nothing poor Justin Malillo could have done as Collins was trying to catch his car. Malillo drove straight into the back of Collins as he came up the racetrack, but yes, heated words between Collins and Sean Peleg, Tyler Gary and company on the radio. Not the way they wanted that to end. And a tough break for Gary in particular, who had race-winning pace and now has a very caved-in nose of his Chevrolet Monte Carlo.
And again, Justin Malillo, late race here. He's run a clean one so far and just getting caught up in other people's mess once again after the last week in the Legends 500. And you see just maybe a little bit of tempers going on here between Justin. But I think he'll use his head at this point, getting onto pit road and live to fight another day. But that is Alex Kolnick's second EOL today, and that will result in a 1-lap hold in his pit box. So a big breaker for Alex Kolnick.
So Kolnick is the one who gets the penalty. He will fall lap down and out of contention for the win this evening. If you're David Brown or Michael Cozy Jr., though, you're not mad about this because I think we're done with pit stops. I suspect we're done with pit stops. And Tyler Gary nonplussed with Alex Kolnick's behavior over that 5-minute stretch either, as we have lights off on the pace car coming next time by, which will leave us with a 10-lap shootout, if my math is right, to figure out who is going to win this race.
Yeah, and before the pace car dipped back down on the pit road, I was going to say that I doubt we had seen the last of it here tonight, and that proved true, and I think that holds true even still. 10-lap dash, you know, everybody looking in the back, you have a lot of stakes on the line here, a lot of guys that are going to be aggressive here. Daniel Falkingham, we know he's had pace, but looking ahead of him with Kevin McAdams, the championship leader, looking around even more, you got Michael P. Frisch, who again has had a rough middle portion of this race, but here at the end he's found himself inside the top 10, sitting in 7th, and his championship rival is just within striking distance. And if he can get a positive net gain in that battle 2 weeks in a row, he'll have a fighting chance come Charlotte. Looking back, Tyler Gary, who was just involved in that accident, wants to get back up ahead. I mean, there's a lot of guys that have very fast race cars that are still very much in contention for it. It's just a matter of do they have enough time at this point, coming to 10 laps to go.
Do they have an opportunity to make things happen? The big question on everybody's mind as pace car comes down pit road. David Brown, your race leader ahead of Michael Cozy Jr. Green flag out once again. Can Brown hold off Cozy? Got a decent restart. Action a little bit further back as Peleg looks to the inside of Daniel Falkingham, but it's mostly single file through the top 4 as they come back to the backstretch. David Brown, your leader. Can Cozy reel him back in?
Looking back where championship matters are concerned, you can see Michael P. Frisch being very impatient right now with that 17 up ahead of him. He knows he's got to make a move within the next 10 laps because it's time. If you want to get up ahead, you got to make it now. Speaking of making moves right now, Dylan Roberts to the inside of Cozy, and they'll be side by side for the second position. And if you're David Brown, that's exactly what you want to see going into turn number 3.
Dylan Roberts to the inside of Cozy for second. Michael Frisch trying to work over Sean Peleg, and here comes Kevin McAdams peeking to the bottom now to try and take away P2. But Frisch trying to work underneath Peleg to cut the points deficit and minimize the damage tonight so that he has a realistic shot of trying to win the championship of the Legends of the Future Series at Charlotte next Thursday night. McAdams now to the inside, though, of Michael Cozy Jr. looking for the third position.
Daniel Falkingham, he was peeking, he was thinking about that 3 wide, but going into turn 1, going to think better of it. And if you're Michael Cozy Jr. right now, you're trying to get slotted back in the line. If you're Kevin McAdams right now, you see that 58 in your mirror, and you are just working diligently trying to build a buffer. But back up ahead, Dylan Roberts on the fresher tires is going to get to the outside of David Brown, and maybe that opens the door for Kevin McAdams. They're side by side for the lead. It's Dylan Roberts now to the point.
Tires starting to fade here on David Brown's machine. How much longer can he hold on? And if he can, who does he back up here? Here comes Kevin McAdams to look to the inside of David Brown for second as Roberts now has the race lead. Brown's going to go right to the bottom and keep McAdams behind him for the moment. But for how much longer? McAdams down to the bottom. Inside he goes to Brown. Should have the pass completed, you would think, within the next lap or so, and then it's going to be all about everybody else trying to find their way around David Brown to try and get Dylan Roberts for the race lead.
A little bit sideways for Michael Cozy Jr. coming to 4 laps to go now here at the Richmond Raceway. Kevin McAdams, he is now ahead, and has control of second place, and if you're Michael P. Frisch, that's the last thing you want to see now, is the only car in between you and your championship rival is that number 39 Pepsi machine. You got to get him out of the way if you want to have a shot at Kevin here. And we'll maybe see that here soon, but all over the back bumper of David Brown now is Michael Cozy Jr. now coming to 3 laps to go.
Big battle further back there for 4th, for 5th, for 6th. Meanwhile, looking at the monitor, can Dylan Roberts keep Kevin McAdams at bay? It was a 24-3 to a 24-2. McAdams needs more, though. Needs about 0.2 a second. He might get it, though. Roberts got loose in the middle of 1 and 2, and that immediately eliminates the gap. Kevin McAdams is right on the rear bumper of Dylan Roberts for the race lead, coming to 2 laps to go at Richmond.
It's a miracle here at Richmond, coming to 2 laps to go, and Kevin McAdams is so big in the rear view mirror of Dylan Roberts right now, going into turn number 1 for the penultimate time. Kevin McAdams dipping down on the high side, and down the backstretch, it looks like he's going to have a shot at him.
He tried to pull the crossover in the middle of 1 and 2. He ran it high to try and get underneath him. Looks like he'll try the same strategy here in 3 and 4. Coming to the white flag, McAdams down to the bottom. Now in the tire tracks of Dylan Roberts. Can Roberts hang on for one more lap, or does McAdams have something left in him?
We will see, going through turns 1 and 2 for the final time, but coming down the backstretch now, it looks like Dylan Roberts, he's going to have one final shot. Kevin McAdams, can he do it?
McAdams looking for the run high, had to check up out of it, is going to try and duck underneath Roberts, but won't have enough time. Dylan Roberts hangs on to win the Come to Richmond 150 for the Legends of the Future Series, presented by Shenandoah Shine. And Kevin McAdams, not quite enough time in the end. He got held up just enough by David Brown, but he gains points on Michael P. Frisch heading into Charlotte and increases his championship lead entering the final race of the season. So it might not be everything you wanted if you're Kevin McAdams, but you'll take it. And Dylan Roberts will take the opportunity to celebrate here on the front stretch.
Yeah, just a great display here from Dylan Roberts. And even from Michael P. Frisch's perspective, you're going to lose a little bit, but not nearly as much as it was looking like you might have when he was running around the 20th position and had an uphill battle. He had a great rebound there to really minimize the bleeding there, but a great run tonight from Dylan Roberts with a nice mix of just pure pace, as well as some strategy with the tires there mixed in as well, and just a great win and a great display here for the Legends of the Future.
Really, really big run there, as we'll go through the running order here and tell you where your favorite driver finished. Dylan Roberts started second and finished one spot better than he qualified. On top in victory lane, Kevin McAdams was second, Daniel Falkingham third. We'll talk to them momentarily. Michael P. Frisch was fourth, David Brown fifth. Michael Cozy Jr. came home in the sixth spot. Seventh went to Sean Peleg. Tyler Gary brought home in the eighth spot. Ninth went to Michael Sturgill, and Gabriel Mauricio rounded out the top 10.
Chris Yankee in 11th. Adam Martin comes home in the 12th position. Danny Thompson in 13th. Art Reimer comes home in the 14th position. Justin Malillo, after a late race wreck there, comes home 15th. Logan Helton, after starting 5th, a rough round, still finished 16th. Alex Kolnick as well, 14 laps down in 17th. Trent Curtis 18th. Mitchell Riggs in 19th. And rounding out your top 20, 36 laps down, is Jackson Van Valkenburg.
21st this evening was Tyler DeVosh, Ashton Slice 22nd. All these drivers out of the race. Ethan Corder was 23rd, Lucas Plessel 24th, Davis Warren and Seth DeMerchant finished 26th to complete our field and complete the unofficial results of the Come to Richmond 150. We now turn our attention to our race winner, who now joins us in the booth, Dylan Roberts, ready to go here. And Dylan, really crazy restart set towards the end. How nervous were you about holding off Kevin, about figuring out how to around David Brown? How tricky was that to navigate from behind the wheel?
Oh, it was definitely not easy. These are guys that know how to drive this car, and they are really fast. I'm coming in here with not a lot of experience before this season, and just kind of trying to learn something every week. And to finally get a win, that's crazy. I mean, they're really good drivers, and that was a insane battle to finish the race.
How nervous were you in the final 5 laps, especially once McAdams got clear of David Brown, and it was just you two for the win?
Oh, I knew he had that little extra edge on me in pace, so I knew if I drove it clean, I was good. But if I made any mistakes, he was there. And then I think it was like 4 to go, 5 to go. I had that big moment in one, and that brings him there, and all of a sudden you're up on the wheel, white knuckling it, just hoping he doesn't get there.
It was close at that point. You had the lead pretty much evaporate there, but you got to that point because of tire strategy. And when you have a race like this where you've got a lot of cautions interspersed, it gives you a lot of opportunities to make decisions. What was your rationale behind deciding whether or not to come in for tires or stay out over the course of the evening?
Well, so early on, I used an extra set more than most other people. I think it was me, Gary, and I think David as well. We all took tires early, so we were down a set to the rest of the field, and I wanted to kind of make that up a little bit, get some track position back. I was feeling like I was kind of mired in traffic, and then it just kind of played into my hands where I took 2 there on that last stop. I had a good stop, and I was right behind those guys who didn't take tires, and it was just a matter of keeping it clean and trying to get around them.
Big win here in the Legends of the Future series. What's it mean to go to victory lane at Richmond?
Oh, it's awesome. It's been about a year since I've won a race that meant anything, and to do it in a league that has this much competition up front, it's awesome.
Dylan Roberts, winner this evening from Richmond Raceway in the Come to Richmond 150. A big victory for him and lots of celebration that will be taking place in his world. We now turn our attention to the man who finished second. Caleb Hoffman is with Kevin McAdams.
Kevin, you just came up short of Dylan Roberts there. We saw him get loose and thought you might have had a shot. Talk us through that final stint from the number 26 point of view.
Well, it sucks because I'm trying to worry about this points lead. It almost distracts me from wanting to win the damn thing. But, I think a lot of fortune happened when that restart. David did everything he could to block. I think he said he had almost 100 lap old tires. Cozy was on about 50 lap old tires. We took 2, and Dylan kind of led the way. As soon as he took the lead, he got really loose, and even at the end of the race, he said he thought he was going in the wall. So I tried to close it in, but I wanted to go for it. If I wasn't already married, I'd make the bridesmaid joke. I've finished second now 4 times in this league, and the only win I have is at Talladega of all places. But it's a great points day, great, momentum going into Charlotte. I'm not the best there. I finished, I think, 10th in the 600 that Blake held earlier in 2022. So, I did the math. It looks like I got to finish 11th. So if I can do that, we'll be in good shape. But I love the way the car drove tonight. It was really fun. You can run a little bit on the top on that second lane, especially to get a good run off the corner in 2. It was a lot of fun. Hey, we had the cautions we did, but this is a great finish. I'll always take a second.
And I mean, again, looking ahead to next week at Charlotte, everything coming down to the final race with Michael P. Frisch. I mean, what is it like just knowing that you do have a kind of a clinching scenario where you can control your own destiny rather than, had you had kind of a worse night and it was a little more up in the air.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool because I haven't had, a chance to win a championship in a league that I participate in essentially since NR 2003 back in 2018 for FTF. So, and to be in a situation like this where I have to, pretty much do what I like to do, which is, race a conservative, clean race and, have a goal in mind. And, hopefully I don't run too much on the conservative side. Hopefully I can run top 10, top 5 like I did tonight. But knowing that, Frisch, he won that same race. I finished 10th in the 600. He's really good at Charlotte. Knowing that I have a little bit of a gap is a little bit relaxing, but I'm still kicking myself for getting involved in that big one at the end of the 500. We'd be about 130 points out. I'd have to finish, I think, like 35th to clinch. Now I got to finish near the top 10. So we'll regather. We'll think about it a little bit. Get the setup dialed in, get the weather dialed in for the race, and then hopefully we'll rock and roll and win a title next week.
Well, that's Kevin McAdams. Comes up just short tonight, but a great points night, and he has his sights set on a championship next week at Charlotte.
Thanks, boys.
Kevin McAdams, P2 this evening, and now to P3, where we bring in Daniel Falkingham, Thunder Dan here. And Dan, it almost felt like at the end of this, you look back at 200 laps of racing here, and it almost felt like the tire strategy didn't sit your way. Is there anything else that contributed to you coming home P3 that might have hindered you from getting the win tonight?
Yeah, if I would have probably pitted around, I guess it was like 85, 80 to go, that yellow where Gary and all them pitted behind me, I probably could have had a better shot because I would have the track position. After I pit, after like that 5-10 lap run afterwards, that put me back in like 15th. That was pretty much curtains for me. But I definitely know I'll never be a crew chief because I can't call pit strategy worth crap. But all in all, we got back to the field and we still got a P3. This is my first top 20 of the season. So I've had crap luck this entire season, a lot of it of my own doing too. But it feels good to finally get a good result before the season ends. And going to Charlotte next week, maybe we can hopefully go for another win or go for a win. But just glad to finally get a good result that I've been longing for.
How tiring was it to run through the field again and again and again? Because I think you passed more cars than just about anybody else in the race tonight.
Yeah, it was definitely something. At the start of the race, it was a lot easier because everyone was just taking their time. I was trying to pick off as many spots as I can without hurting my stuff. But yeah, it was definitely a blast driving to the field. Like I love driving this place, but just these grip strips that they put here just makes it so hard to pass. So I still had a lot of fun though getting through the field. I wish I didn't have to do it as many times as I did, but all in all, it made for an exciting show from my point of view. So, and we still got a podium out of it. So it was definitely a blast.
You like your chances at Charlotte next week to round out the season with a victory?
I would definitely feel like I could maybe go out there and have a shot. I know we got the points championship going on, but I'm still not great in these cars, but I have been figuring it out over the last few weeks, like at Darlington and all that. So maybe if I can have more speed again next week, we might have a shot. But yeah, just hopefully it ends the season on a good note because it's been a pretty terrible season for me. So if we can end it on a good note, I'll definitely be satisfied.
Thunder Dan comes home P3 this evening, getting ready for a wrap up on this season, and then immediately turning his attention to the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. Well, he will be a rookie for Joe Gibbs Racing in 2023. Lots of big time action coming up on the way for Daniel Falkingham and Caleb Hoffman. That's a wrap on things here at Richmond in a race that played out a lot of different ways. It felt like it could have taken many different forks of the road, and then we get here at the end, and Dylan Roberts makes the right decisions at the right times, both on pit road and on the racetrack, to come away with victory number 1 of the season.
Yeah, and it really felt like a tale of two different races. That first half, it was really, while the track was still hot, the tires were slick and tire fall off was huge. We were having long green flag runs. And then as the sun started to fade and the lights came up, we started to see more cautions. We started to see a little bit more attrition throughout the field, we'll say. And it did come out down to the pit strategy there at the end, mixed with a little bit of pace. But either way, it sets up for a very interesting points battle going into Charlotte next week. We heard Kevin unofficially would have to finish 11th to clinch the championship next week. And we'll see if Michael P. Frisch has anything to say about that. Either way, a very fun round, and I can't wait to see what we have in store for the finale at Charlotte next week.
I will finish off where you were going with that because I could tell what you were trying to do. The sun has gone down. The moon has come up here in Richmond, and one Dylan Roberts has left with the cup. One more race to go in the Legends of the Future series presented by Shenandoah Shine for 2022 next Thursday night, 8:45 p.m. Eastern time here on FTF.GG. Charlotte Motor Speedway, Kevin McAdams, the points leader, Michael Frisch, P2, those two battling for a title, everybody else battling for one checkered flag and one chance to get to victory lane to round out this 2022-23 campaign of the Legends of the Future series presented by Shenandoah Shine. That will do it for our coverage of the Come to Richmond 150. But thanks to Davis Warren for his support of tonight's race. A big thanks to everybody at the Legends of the Future Cup Series presented by Shenandoah Shine for their support, and for our team at FTF.GG, for Caleb Hoffman and our director this evening, Zach Johnson. I am James Pike. Good night from Richmond Raceway, and congratulations to Dylan Roberts, winner of the Come to Richmond 150.